Hi y'all, and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial video. Some of you may recognize the location where I am. So this is the campsite that I built on the Nether roof a few videos ago. And behind me you will see the 4-chamber wither killer that I also built at that campsite. So this wither killer is a safe way to convert a lot of soul sand and a lot of wither skulls into nether stars. So like most wither killers, this is made out of a lot of bedrock. However, in your survival world, you may not have access to this amount of bedrock. And so in today's video, I'm going to talk about natural wither killers. So natural wither killers are locations in the world that you can use to kill a wither safely, but do not require placing any bedrock. I'm going to talk about a couple different natural wither killers, both how to find them and how to use them. So this video is going to contain a mix of a building tutorial, a mechanics tutorial, and a little bit of an RBedrock tutorial. If you're new to the channel, you may recognize that I am building on the Nether roof. Yes, this is something I can do. If you would like to know how to do this, please subscribe to the channel. When I get 2,000 subscribers, I will release a video explaining how I do this. I'll also release a tool that will help you do this in your own worlds. So in order to spawn the wither, the first thing we're going to do is construct a T out of soul sand or soul soil. It's very important that the blocks below the arms of this T are clear, so they need to be air blocks. On top of this T, we are going to place wither skeleton skulls. So wither skeleton skulls need to be placed by the player or by a dispenser. And when you place the last skull, the wither is going to spawn in the positive X direction or east, and that's denoted by this pumpkin. So when you place the last skull, the wither is going to spawn on top of the pumpkin. Now, the orientation of the soul sand and the wither skeleton skulls can vary. They can be vertical or horizontal, or even upside down, but in all cases, the wither is going to spawn in the positive X direction marked by these pumpkins. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns are important when spawning the wither because they allow you to determine the location the wither will spawn in. So this stem always points to the northwest, so we know this side is west and this side is east, and so when we spawn the wither to the west of the pumpkin, we know it's going to spawn on the pumpkin, like so. So what happens if we block the location of the wither spawning? So what's the wither going to do? Is he going to spawn in this bedrock? Is he going to move in one direction or the other? So that's what we're going to find out. So as we see that the wither actually spawns to the east of the spawning location. Now the question is, how far will he go before the spawn either fails or the wither will spawn in a block? So now we're trying 2. 3. 4. 4. So if the location of the wither spawning is blocked, it will move up to 4 blocks and spawn there. So now what happens if we continue this out? So let's build out 3 more. Does he still stop on the 4th block? So the answer is yes. So the wither will spawn on the 4th block if everything else is blocked. All right, so if it can't spawn here, it'll try to spawn there. If it can't spawn there, it'll try to spawn here. If it can't spawn here, he'll spawn here. So that's the basis of a wither spawning. Now the question is, can he move out of here? In this kind of configuration, he usually can. So we need to surround him with more bedrock to ensure that he does not escape. I'm going to build this up and I'll be back in just a second. So I've built up this wither killer in a diamond formation. We spawn the wither now. you will see that is spawning right in the middle of this bedrock block. So if I not miss, you can see he's right there. Hello, Wither. And this layout is he's gonna spin here for a couple minutes and suffocate. So this is the layout that pretty much guarantees that no Wither Skull will escape. So this is sort of like the safe layout. It's a bit OP, but it does guarantee that nothing escapes. Now, you don't need to use this much bedrock to build a Wither Killer. So you don't need to use this much bedrock to build a Wither Killer. In a second, I'll show you a layout that is a little smaller. So, hi Star. The first thing is that we don't need all this protection. So we'll trim it down. The Wither's going to spawn right here in the middle, so we're going to mark this before we forget. So we don't need these on the side. That there for now. This. Break these two sets. We also don't need all of this amount on the back end. So this will work. If we spawn the Wither, he will spawn in this area as before, and will also suffocate. Now this layout, skulls can escape, so you only want to use it if you're not really too concerned about that. But we can even go a bit thinner. So we'll get rid of that. You can even get rid of some of these in the middle. Say that. And this will still work as a Wither Killer. This is kind of like your core Wither killing design. So this is kind of your core Wither killing design. You need 2 blocks to push him all the way here, and then you need enough blocks around the 4th spawning spot to keep him from escaping and to suffocate him. So the thing about natural Wither Killers, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for areas in the world where there's natural bedrock and can replicate this kind of setup. First place we're going to build a natural Wither Killer is in a pond in the Overworld. So if you look enough in the Overworld, you can find formations like this. So this is a pond that generated at bedrock level, and it actually eliminated a lot of bedrock. So these are sort of natural depressions in the bedrock that happen in the Overworld. If you can see here, I'm actually down to y equals 1. So this is the bottom of the world. There's only one layer of bedrock beneath me. And so if you can find one of these in your overworld that is set up the right way, you can spawn the wither and it'll naturally die. So if you look at this setup, get my pumpkin out. So what we're looking for is we're looking to see which side is in the positive X direction, so east. So this is pointing northwest, so that means this direction is east. So if we spawn a wither, it's going to go this way. So the question is the bedrock in this direction set up in a way that would trap a wither? And the answer is yes. We can actually fit in, with a little bit of work, 3 wither killers in here. Of course, the difficulty in constructing a wither killer like this is finding the right location in your world. So you could dig a lot at bedrock level and wait till you find one. Maybe you will find one that is perfect for a wither killer, doing it manually. But on this channel, we don't do that. Instead, we use tools that look at your world and tell you potential places. And so I've written one such tool, and in a second I will show you how to use it to analyze your world and find depressions like this. My script for finding natural wither killers is available on GitHub. If you followed my previous tutorials about installing R, RStudio, and RBedrock, this should be really easy for you to use in your own world. While you can download the script and open it in RStudio and work with it that way, I'm going to show you a quick tutorial on how to source this script directly from the web and work with it that way. Later on this video, I'm going to go into detail about how this script works and give you a chance to learn more about how you can use RBedrock to make your own analyses. I'm now in RStudio. If you do not have RStudio installed on your system, I recommend you follow my previous videos on getting RStudio and RBedrock set up on your system. So one quick tip before you run the wither killer script, it's important to update your RBedrock library. So to do that, we're going to do DevTools, install GitHub, read a Cartwright, RBedrock. So what this is going to do is just going to try to reinstall our RBedrock. So if any changes have been made to the library since you last installed it, this is going to give you a fresh copy. This is often important for running some of these scripts because they may be using a new functionality in RBedrock that wasn't available when you installed it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the source function. So that's going to be source https git.io/J K P R and then lowercase t. So when we hit enter, what this function is going to do is it's going to download our script from the web. And so this is a short URL that you can use to access a version of this wither killer script. And it's going to download it from the web, and then it's going to run it. And when this script runs, it's going to load our bedrock and tidyverse, and then it's going to create a function called find wither killers. So if we look at it, we can do find wither killers, press enter, and we can see our script for our code for finding wither killers. Next thing we need to do is we need to figure out what world we're going to run. And so to do that, I'm going to type list worlds. When we run list worlds, what's going to be returned is a table that contains information about our worlds. So it contains the folder name, the world name, and when it was last opened in 3 separate columns. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load this world. So I'm going to load up my wither killer demo world. And so I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to paste this world name into a variable. So that's dbpath. And then I'm going to is going to equal to quotation marks, and then I'm going to paste in our name of our world. So now we have our world set up. So now we're going to run our Wither Killer script. I'm going to do table, so I'm going to save the results of it. Find Wither Killers. Next argument is dbpath. And then west is -1000. North is -1000. East is 1000. And south is 1000. So when we run this script, it's going to load up our world. It's going to search all the chunks within a box specified by block coordinate. So it's going to find all the chunks that overlap between -1000 west and north and +1000 east and south. So it's going to look at all the chunks in there. So these are in block coordinates, not chunk coordinates. It's going to load up all those chunks. It's going to look at the lowest subchunk in there at bedrock level. So it's going to look at bedrock level, and it's going to see if there is any water at bedrock level. And so this can take a while, especially if you have a large world with a lot of things loaded. This is a fresh world that I've explored a little bit on, so it doesn't take that long for me. But this may take several minutes for you if you are trying to process a large area in your world. So now this is done, I'm going to type table again and press enter, and that's going to give me information about chunks that have pools at bedrock levels. So the columns is an X, so that's the X coordinate of the chunk, and the Z coordinate, so these are also in block coordinates, and the size. So the size tells you how much water there is at those levels. And so with this output, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my world, and I'm going to go to these coordinates and dig down at bedrock level. Dig down to bedrock level and see if any of the pools will work. So let's do that. So the first chunk identified by my script as having a pond at bedrock level. So we're going to dig down to bedrock level and see if this pond will work as a natural wither killer. So we're at bedrock level, and so now we're going to dig around and search for the pond. We're going to start clearing out this chunk. At some point there will be a natural pond. So it looks like we've discovered it. This pond, so let me get the lantern out. All right, so this is of course our northwest. That means that is the direction we're looking at, what we want. But looking at this pond, I can tell it's not going to work. This pond only takes out 2 layers of bedrock. And to get a successful spawn, in my experience, we need to have at least 3 levels taken out of bedrock. So I need to be standing at least at Y2, ideally at Y1. So this one's not going to work. So we're going to head to the next location and see how that works for us. It's looking a bit better. It's deeper, so it goes all the way down to 2. We have sections on both sides. We have sort of this formation in the middle. So I'm going to clear out a bit of this area and see if it's going to work as a wither killer.
We have all of the water cleared out, it looks like, and so now we're going to clear out some of the bedrock, because when doing a wither killer, it's important to test it when there's no other blocks around. We're going to clear out the east side and see how it goes. Boom, 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 boom. 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 Boom.
So I think that's enough destruction for now. I think we're now ready to try to spawn the wither and see if any of these sort of areas work as a natural wither killer. So this may not end up being a good spot, and we're going to have to keep searching for more. But let's see. The only way to do it is testing it out in creative. First, we're going to place our jack-o'-lantern, and this area is east. So we're looking for a tall piece of bedrock surrounded by other bedrock enough to keep the wither in from escaping, and far enough away so that when we spawn the wither, it will get trapped in the bedrock. So what are we looking at? So we could potentially... So wait, we don't need this in this level. We potentially could spawn a wither here. That might work. Potentially could spawn a wither here. It goes here. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where it would go. We did it here. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. So same spot. Maybe 1 over. Try it 1 over. See if we can fit it 1 over. We can. So that may work. Let's try that spot. So if we spawn it here, see if it goes. Let's try it. So he spawned in the right location. Now the trick is figuring out if he's going to stay there. So it looks like he might be. But the one way to test it is by spawning a bunch of cave spiders and sheep is how I usually test it. What we want to see is if he'll escape and attack other animals. See, he escaped. So that is not a stable spot for him. But he's not safe there. Although we can get him to spawn in Bedrock, he can escape through that direction. Alright, so then, but if we can get him, can I get him spawned in that? This spot may work if we can get him in there. We can't get him spawned in there. Unless we get sideways to work. That one probably doesn't work. And he's suffocating, but... yeah, he escaped. That one's not gonna work. See. think this, let's see, can I get him spawned this direction? Probably not. Not, I mean, well, this one actually might work. 1, 2, 3. Oh, build him up. Test this one. Yep, see that one doesn't work. Okay. Next, let's see. Other spots we could try it in. Let's try it down here. We may get something here to work. A couple different areas, so here would work. Try to get it. Here would work. We can get him in there. Let's try. So he's in there. So is he going to be safe and stable in there? Is going to be the question. Alright, spiders. So I believe I found a valid wither killer, and so I've geared up and I'm going to test it in survival to see how it works when a player is in survival and they spawn the wither in. So far we're safe over here. He hasn't escaped. If I come down here, does he see me and start attacking? Doesn't appear so. Test my luck. Yeah, so it looks like this wither killer is gonna work. The wither is suffocating. He hasn't escaped. I've been running around on top of him, bouncing around. And so once he's dead, I'm going to mark the area that we use to spawn the wither, so we do it correctly. Then I'm going to look at a couple other spots, see if I find any other interesting ponds. And then after that, we will talk a little bit about two other types. Well, one other type of wither killer. So I found another wither killer. It's kind of cool. It's very small, but it actually works pretty effectively. So I'm going to clear up this area as we did before, and then we'll be right back. So as you can see, so this pond down here took out down to y = 1. It's a little small area, but we can actually fit a wither in here when spawning. And we can spawn it like so. The reason why I like this area is that I can put a platform like this, and this really helps remind me when I spawn. We cannot spawn the wither lower, so the wither will not spawn if you place the soul sand at y = 1, so it will spawn like this. If I do it like this, and then spawn it, what you see is that he spawns right here. And he's pretty secure in this formation. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to think about instead of looking for ponds that have natural weather killers, I'm going to look for bedrock formations. Are there areas in the world in which you may have a large section of 5-high bedrock that, if you remove the bedrock around it, could turn into a really good natural wither killer? So right now, we have two methods to remove bedrock, signs and dark oak. So I'm going to show you how to use both of those to shape an area and create your own natural wither killer. Now the advantage of doing this is that for the most part, the bedrock floor is identical across worlds. So we're going to modify our script a bit and look for an area in the overworld and in the nether. So we'll look for two areas, in the overworld and the nether, that are could work with a little bit of shaping. So I'm going to show you that right now. So I modified my wither finding script to, instead of searching for a pond at bedrock level, instead look to see if within any chunk there was a 3x3x5 area of bedrock. So if we have a 5-high area of bedrock, that's a pretty good spot to build a wither killer. So I have found such an area. So note these chunks. You may have this exact same formation in your overworld. Usually the overworld chunks all have the same bedrock level. This can be affected by biomes. So some biomes, like desert biomes, biomes with sand above them, can change this. So if you're lucky and you don't have a sandy biome in this chunk, you may have this formation in this exact same location. So you don't even need to run my script. You can just come here and turn this into a natural wither killer. So in order to turn this 3x3 formation into a natural wither killer, we need to place a platform west of it. So if you remember how the wither spawns, we got to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to build our platform here. So we place our blocks here, and then skulls here. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the wither would be here. Of course, we can't do it up here on the surface. We're going to have to dig down. That means we need to do a 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 3x3 area, we have to dig down to y equals 2, or ideally y equals 1. I'm going to show you two ways to do that. So the first method I'm going to show you to break bedrock is dark oak. We're going to place dirt here, and then we'll place our pumpkin here. So that identifies the northwest corner. On the northwest corner, we are going to pile up about 8, 9 blocks, something like that. And then we're going to place dark oak. So in this formation, there's a chance that the dark oak goes down and breaks some of the bedrock. But a couple tips about this is that it's only going to break bedrock on the out of it, on the outer edge of this 2x2. So you don't want to form it any closer to the wither killer, because it may take out some important bedrock for you. Also, don't go any lower than this, because you risk breaking into the void, which can be repaired. But if you don't have bedrock, you may not want to do that. So I kind of stick up here to sort of be safe. So when you have it in this situation, you're going to bone meal it. And see what happens. So in this case, it grew up, which is not what we wanted. So now we're going to break all of this. So you have to try this a bunch of times until you get all the bedrock removed that you need. That's one that went down. So we're going to see if what it removed and whether it's any useful for us. So this removed some bedrock. So if you see now that we can get all the way down to y equals 1 here. I'm going to keep doing this for a couple more turns just so you can see how it works. And then I'll show you the second method to remove bedrock. As you can see, we've done this a bunch of times and we've managed to clear out some of our bedrock. Now this is tedious. It can take a while. Even if all you're aiming for is clearing out a 3x3 section down to y equals 1, it can take a while. You get into a rhythm and it's not that bad for this part of area. But currently on 1.16.100, there's a bug in the game that allows you to use signs to clear bedrock. And so if you're currently on that version, you can eliminate this area much quicker. So now that we've cleared a area for spawning the wither, we're going to finish our testing and our setup. Build our platform here. So like I said, this platform at y equals 1 is optional. If you don't need it, you can leave bedrock up here. And so if you don't have to break bedrock all the way down to y equals 1. But I like using a platform like this because it helps remind me how I spawn. And if we've done everything correctly, the wither should spawn there. Looks like he's trapped. So like I said before, this is a formation in this location that you may have in your world. So if you're interested in creating a natural wither killer in your world, go to these coordinates and see if you have a 3x3 area here. If you do, then you can create one of these in your overworld using either dark oak or the sign bug, whatever is currently works for you. Alternatively, you can use the original script like we showed before and look for a large area of bedrock that has been cleared by a pond and construct a wither killer there. So now if this wither killer is not in your world, I'm going to show you a location soon in the Nether. The difference between Nether floor bedrock and Overworld floor bedrock is while Overworld is nearly the same in every world, the Nether it's always the same. So the coordinates I'm about to show you are in the Nether and they will be in your world. So if you don't have the bedrock formation I just showed in the Overworld, you can come to the Nether and build a similar wither killer here. So this is a 3x3x5 location in the Nether. This is going to be in every single world. Okay, so that ends my natural wither killer tutorial. Stick around if you want to know more about how my script works and maybe learn a little bit about how to use RBedrock for your own analyses. When recreating the wither killer script, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load the two dependent libraries. That's library Tidyverse and library RBedrock. And then Control Enter to run those lines. Next, I'm going to create a database object. So DB is going to be an object in R that holds open a connection to the database that Minecraft uses to save data. So DB is going to be Bedrock DB. I'm going to paste in the name of my world file. Once the database is opened, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a grid of chunk coordinates. So this grid's going to specify the chunks that we're going to use to search for natural wither killers. And so in this example, I'm going to set our chunk coordinates between -50 and 50 on the X, and on the Z axis, -50 and 50 as well. So my find wither killer function converts from block coordinates to chunk coordinates, but in this example, I'm going directly to chunk coordinates to make things simpler. From here, I'm going to create our grid using the expand grid function, with one axis being our X and the other axis being our Z. So we now come over here to the environment tab and we click on G. We see that G is a table that represents all possible combinations of X and Z. And so this is what defines our grid of chunk coordinates. Before I go any further, I want to explain tidy versus pipe operator syntax. So if we wanted to look at the first couple values of X, we can do head X. Go enter and see that the first couple values are -50 to 45. If we wanted to reverse this, we could do reverse head X. And so the value of head gets passed to reverse, and then the result is as we expected. However, in tidyverse, there's a pipe operator that allows us to accomplish the same thing in a clearer fashion. So using the pipe operator, we do head X, pipe, and reverse. So this parentheses greater than parentheses structure is the pipe operator. So what this does is it takes the output of head and pastes it in as the first input to reverse. You can also chain pipe operators together, so we can express the same thing as X, pipe, head, pipe, reverse, and get the same output. Within tidyverse, one of the advantages of using the pipe operator is that it allows you to combine a lot of complex filters in one statement in a very easy to read format. So now, after that quick explanation of the pipe operator, we're going to read all the blocks from our search area in our world using the get sub chunk blocks function. And the arguments that we're going to pass our database object, the coordinates on the x-axis we want to use, and the coordinates on our z-axis that we're going to use. And so we're passing the grid of these coordinates from our g object. We're going to do, in the 0 dimension, we're going to return the lowest subchunk. And then after that, we're going to pipe it to the compact function. So get subchunk blocks, if the subchunk hasn't been loaded, it's going to return a null for that subchunk. And so we're piping the output of get subchunk blocks to the compact function to remove those null values. So if we come over here to environment and we click on block list. So as we can see, block list is a list of 345 values. Each value is represented by a name or a key. This key identifies the chunk that the data came from and the contents of that data. Because this is from a subchunk, the value of the data is going to be an array of strings that has 3 dimensions for X, Y, and Z. So let's use a temporary value to look at one of these 3-dimensional arrays of blocks. Create a value called blocks, and that's going to be set to the value of block list, double bracket, double parentheses, double quotation marks, at 0:0:0:47-0. So this string here is what's known in our Bedrock as a chunk key. This at signifies that the key represents data from a chunk. The first element here is the x coordinate of the chunk. The second element is the z coordinate. The third element is the dimension. And the last element identifies the type of data and whether it comes from a subchunk or not. So blocks is a three-dimensional array of strings holding block information for the subchunk. So the first index in blocks is the x coordinate, the second index is the y coordinate, and the third index is the z coordinate. Now in R, indices are one base, so if we wanted to access the lowest block information in this subchunk, we would type blocks single bracket 1, 1, 1. So this is going to return us the value for x equals 0, y equals 0, and z equals 0 in the game. So we see that this is a piece of bedrock at this location. We can also generate a table of blocks in the subchunk by doing table blocks. And this is going to return us a list of all the unique blocks and block states in this chunk and information about how often they are found. So we can tell that from this list, Minecraft stone with stone type stone was found nearly 2,500 times. Granite, 97 times. Diorite, 127 times. So we can see all that from this data. In order to count how much water there is in this subchunk, we don't actually need to know the block data. So I'm going to recall get subchunk blocks, but I'm going to ask it to only return the names of the blocks and not the block data associated with the block. To do that, we'll do block list again, get subchunk blocks, database, gx, g, zth column of g, 0, 0, and now we're going to do names only is equal to true. So when I run this, it's going to be just the same as before, but it's no longer going to report any of the block data that's associated with the block. So if I, once again, create my blocks, is going to be block list at 0, 0, 0, 47-0, and then I do our table again. You see that we now no longer have block data. So now let's create a function that's going to count how much water there is at bedrock level in this chunk. So that's going to do count water. It can be a function with parameter blocks. And we're going to create a variable w, and that's going to be blocks, 1 to 5, comma, equal to Minecraft water. So W is going to be a 16 by 5 by 16 array that tells us whether any of the blocks at bedrock level are water. In order to count how many those are, we're going to do some W. And so what count water is going to do is it's going to be able to measure the amount of water at bedrock. So to test it out, I want to do count water blocks. And so we find out that the subchunk we've been looking at, the 0th subchunk, has no water blocks at bedrock level. So in order to apply this function to every subchunk in our data set, I can run it through a for loop, but instead I'm going to use a map function. To that, I'm going to create a variable called water num, and that's going to be the result of piping block list to map int and count water as the argument to map int. And so what map int here is going to do is for every element in block list, it's going to run count water on that, and then it's going to return a vector of the results. And so if we look at that return, we see that we have, for every subchunk in our data set, we have a number that measures the amount of water in that subchunk. Now, most of the subchunks in our search grid do not have water in them. That's why there's all these zeros. So to measure how many do have water at bedrock level, we can do sum water num greater than 0. And if we execute that, we see that there are 18 chunks that have some sort of water at bedrock level in our data set. So now to identify all the chunks that may have pools in them that can be used as a wither killer, we're going to create a variable called pool chunks. And that's going to be the result of filtering water number for all the values in which water num is greater than 0. And then we're going to pipe that for good measure to sort and reverse. We can look at it. So now if we look at our results, we see that pool chunks has a list of all the chunks in our data set that has some sort of water at bedrock level and how much water they have here. So now we're going to make this pretty so it makes it easier for you to look at. So we're going to create a variable called pos, and this is going to hold the result of piping the names of pool chunks to the chunk pos function. So pos is going to contain a two-dimensional array that holds the x and the z chunk coordinates. We're going to use this to convert to block coordinates. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to create an object called table. That's going to be a tibble that has an x column that's based on 16 times position times the first column of the pos, and then z is going to be 16 times the second column of pos. Then we're going to set a size column that holds the values of pool chunks. If we now look at table, we see that it is a tibble that has 3 columns. The x and z columns hold the block coordinates of the chunk that may have a wither killer, and the size holds how much bedrock has been removed by water in that chunk. So we said before, if you are looking to find a natural wither killer in your world, you'd want to go to these chunks one by one and see if any of these will work for you. So with that, I'm going to finally wrap up this video. I'd like to thank all of y'all for watching this far. We've covered a lot of ground. I talked about wither spawning mechanics, how to construct a wither killer, how to identify natural wither killers, how to build your own natural wither killers. We covered a little bit of how to use RBedrock and especially the block API within RBedrock. And so I hope you found this video useful. I hope you find a reason to use natural wither killers in your own world. They're safe, easy, and reliable. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. Please join my Discord. A lot of the stuff that I do goes there first, sometimes months ahead of when it comes out onto this channel. If you are enjoying this content and you would like to see more, please like and subscribe. Like I said before, when I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will release a video explaining how I build on the Nether roof and release a tool set that will allow you to potentially build on your own Nether roof. So I'm Rufus. Thanks for watching.